Look at this beggar. My sister-in-law sneered, so I silently slid her husband's credit card statements across the table heavily. Online poker, sports betting, casino visits. I have transaction records from the past 2 years showing $2.3 million in total gambling losses. The table exploded. 2 million. My father finally looked up. 2.3 million, I corrected. He won some back, but the net loss is 1.9 million. The credit card statements show how he's been covering the losses and keeping Victoria in the dark. Victoria sat frozen, staring at the papers like they were written in another language. That's not possible. Marcus doesn't gamble. Marcus has a gambling addiction, I said as gently as I could. He's been hiding it very well. The late nights working on cases, the poker nights with the guys, the weekend conferences, the casino trips, the work bonuses he told you about, all lies. You're lying, Victoria whispered, but her voice cracked. I wish I were. I slid the bank statements across the table. These are cash advances, transfers to offshore gambling sites, ATM withdrawals at casinos. The pattern is unmistakable. Marcus dropped his head into his hands. Nicole, please stop. I'm not doing this to hurt you, I said. I'm doing it because it gets worse. I pulled out another thick folder. This is your mortgage application for the dream house you're closing on next week. You told the bank you have $200,000 cash for the down payment. We do, Victoria said weakly. That $200,000 is borrowed money, I continued. Personal loans from 3 different predatory lenders at sky-high interest rates. He's planning to use debt to buy a $1.8 million house you can't afford. The bank approved us, Victoria protested. They approved you based on fraudulent information, I said. Marcus claimed your household income was $450,000 a year. His actual take-home is $180,000. He submitted fake tax returns, falsified debt disclosures, and hit every existing credit line. I laid the real tax returns next to the forged ones he'd given the bank. Side by side, the difference was undeniable. This is mortgage fraud, I said quietly. A federal crime. If the lender discovers this before closing, and they will because I'm reporting it tonight, the loan is dead. If they discover it after closing, Marcus faces criminal prosecution. Victoria was openly crying now. Why are you doing this? Why are you trying to destroy us? I'm not trying to destroy you, I said. I'm trying to save you from destroying yourselves. I pulled out the final stack. You asked why I came today. I came because Marcus's financial house of cards is collapsing. The credit cards are maxed. The minimum payments already exceed his take-home pay. In 3 weeks he starts defaulting. In 6 weeks the collection calls begin. In 90 days the first foreclosure notice hits. We'll figure it out, Marcus mumbled into his hands. You can't, I said, tapping the numbers. Even if you stop gambling today, you still owe $1.9 million. The math doesn't work. Ever. Silence swallowed the room. Victoria looked at me, mascara streaking her cheeks. What do you want from us? I don't want anything, I said. I'm just making sure the next time you call someone a beggar at the family table, you know exactly who's been paying for your lifestyle and who's about to lose everything because of it. I stood up, gathered my folders, and walked out. Behind me, the only sound was Victoria sobbing and Marcus finally, telling the truth. Plus interest. Your income can't service even a fraction of it. You're going to lose everything. What do you care? Victoria spat, tears still streaming. You just sat there while I called you a beggar, said you didn't belong here. Why do you care if I lose everything? Because despite everything you just said, Marcus is still my brother, I answered. And you're about to commit mortgage fraud that will drag both of you to federal prison on top of the financial ruin you're already in. I slid the final document across the table. This is a foreclosure notice, not for the new house you're buying but for the one you're living in right now. The one Marcus told you was paid off. 2 years ago he took out a secret second mortgage for $400,000 and blew it all gambling. He hasn't made a payment in 4 months. The bank is foreclosing. You have 60 days until eviction. Victoria made a sound halfway between a sob and a scream. You're lying. This is all lies. It's all documented. Public records. Anyone could have looked. I did, because the new loan application triggered every fraud flag in the system. I turned to Marcus. His face was gray. "What are we supposed to do?" he whispered, voice broken. "First," I said, "you cancel the closing on the new house tomorrow morning. Tell them you can't proceed. You'll lose the deposit, but that's better than felony charges." "But that's our dream home," Victoria started. "Your dream home was built on $2 million of lies. It was never real." I pulled out the next sheet. "Second, you get real help. I've already booked Marcus an appointment with a gambling addiction specialist for Tuesday morning. I've also retained a top bankruptcy attorney. Your situation is mathematically unsalvageable. Chapter 7 is the only clean exit. Bankruptcy." Dad finally barked. "No Mason has ever." Then maybe a Mason should have noticed his son had a $2 million problem before it got this far. I cut in. "Can you write a check for that, Dad? Because if not, bankruptcy is the lifeline." Silence. "Third," I continued, looking at Victoria, "you separate your finances from Marcus today. Open new accounts in your name only. Move your paycheck there. Protect whatever you still have, because when his debts implode, creditors will come after joint assets and garnish your wages too." "You're telling me to leave my husband," she whispered. "I'm telling you to protect yourself legally and financially. Whether you stay married is your choice. But right now your name is on some of these accounts. When he goes down, they'll drag you with him." Victoria stared at the pile of evidence like it was radioactive. "This is insane." "No," I said quietly. "This is consequences. Marcus made catastrophic choices for 2 years. Now the bill has come due, and I'm the only one who bothered to read it before the lights went out." I stood up, closed the last folder, and looked at my brother. "You still have a chance to face this like a man instead of a ghost. Take the appointments. File the bankruptcy. Tell the truth for once. Or keep running, and watch prison become the next stop." I walked to the door, paused, and glanced back at Victoria. "The next time you feel like calling someone a beggar at the family table, remember who just saved you from living in your car." Then I left behind me. The only sound was Victoria sobbing and Marcus, for the first time in years, finally telling the truth. Choices have caught up to him. That I looked at my brother. "I'm sorry, Marcus. I really am. But this intervention needed to happen before you committed federal crimes and made everything irreversible. Why didn't you tell me privately?" he whispered, voice cracking. "I tried. For phone calls last week. You ignored them. I texted you the first page of your credit report. You blocked my number." I gestured at the table full of stunned faces. "So I came here today, knowing Victoria would make a scene, knowing everyone would be watching. You needed witnesses. You needed accountability. You needed people who love you to finally see the truth, so you couldn't keep lying to yourself or anyone else." My mother was crying quietly now. Dad looked like he'd aged a decade in 10 minutes. Victoria sat frozen, staring at the documents that had just detonated her perfect life. "I know you hate me right now," I said, meeting Victoria's eyes. "You called me a beggar. Said I was embarrassing. Said I didn't belong here. And maybe you're right. I've never fit into this family's obsession with appearances and keeping up. But I'm the only one who saw what was actually happening. I'm the only one who cared enough to stop it before it got worse. How could it possibly get worse?" Victoria asked bitterly, tears spilling. I slid the last set of papers across the table. "Because the mortgage fraud you're about to commit carries up to 5 years in federal prison each. The foreclosure on your current house destroys your credit for 7 to 10 years minimum. And the gambling debts. Not all of them are to banks." Marcus's head snapped up. "What do you mean?" "400,000 of your debt is to private lenders. 3 separate shark operations with interest rates north of 40%. The kind who don't send polite letters when you miss payments." I pointed to the contracts I'd printed. "Read the fine print. They can seize the house, the cars, anything of value. And that's just the legal part they bothered to write down. Their off-the-books collection methods aren't in any contract." Victoria grabbed the pages, scanned them, and went white. They can take everything. And worse," I said quietly. "Marcus, how far behind are you with them?" He swallowed hard. 2 months. Maybe 2 weeks before they start coming. "That's the other reason I came today," I said. "And why it had to be public. These people need to know you have family watching. They need to know you're not alone and unprotected. Dad finally stood, voice like steel. Marcus, Victoria, you're both moving back home tonight. Pack what you need. We'll deal with the foreclosure, the bankruptcy attorney, the counselor, everything. But you are not staying in that house one more night where those animals can find you alone. For the first time in years, no one argued with him. Victoria looked at me, mascara ruined, pride shattered. You really did this to save us? I did it because someone had to, I said. And because the next time you feel the urge to call someone a beggar at the family table, you'll remember who just kept your husband out of prison. And both of you off the street. I picked up my bag and walked to the door. Behind me, the only sound was Victoria whispering thank you through her tears and Marcus, for the first time in years, finally asking for help. Find you easily. Dad, I'm 40 years old, Marcus protested weakly. And you're $2 million in debt to loan sharks, Dad snapped. Your pride isn't the priority right now. He turned to me. Nicole, can you set up that meeting with the bankruptcy attorney? Already done. Tuesday at 2 p.m. He has the full file. Dad nodded, then really looked at me. Maybe for the first time in 9 years. You did the right thing today. Coming here. Making it public. He glanced at Victoria. I'm sorry for what was said at this table. It's fine. It's not fine, he cut in. You're family. You're always welcome here. And apparently you're the only one who's been paying attention to what actually matters. He stood. Marcus, Victoria. Go pack what you need tonight. You're coming home. Everyone else, brunch is over. The Mason family has private business to handle. The aftermath took months. Marcus filed Chapter 7. Lost the house to foreclosure. Entered a 90-day residential gambling addiction program. Victoria stayed barely. They're in weekly marriage counseling, trying to rebuild trust that may never be whole again. The loan sharks were settled. Dad brought in lawyers and negotiators who knocked the debts down to 60 cents on the dollar. Still brutal, but cheaper than broken legs. Marcus is back at work, a smaller firm, smaller salary. He goes to Gamblers Anonymous 3 nights a week. Victoria controls every penny now. He's on a cash-only allowance like a teenager. And me? Still the boring bank analyst in thrift store clothes and a 10-year-old Honda. But I'm also the sister who kept her brother out of federal prison and probably out of a shallow grave. 3 months later, at the next family brunch, Victoria found me before anyone else sat down. I'm sorry, she said quietly. For what I said. For how I treated you. You saved us and I called you a beggar. You didn't know, I answered. I didn't want to know, she corrected. I wanted the perfect life, the big house, the image. I didn't care if it was built on lies. She took a breath. You cared about what was real, even when we treated you like you were nothing. I shrugged. Your family. No, she said, eyes wet. That's what you do. That's what real strength looks like. Not the decorator, not the handbag, not the address. Integrity. Courage to say the hard truth when no one wants to hear it. She hugged me, tight, real, no air kissing. Marcus came over next. Thank you, he said, voice rough. I was too angry, too ashamed to say it before. But thank you for caring enough to stop me when I couldn't stop myself. I hugged him back. You're going to be okay, Marcus. It'll take time, but you'll rebuild, the right way this time. He managed a small smile. With your help. Always, I said. Because that's what family does. Not the fake version that cares about appearances. The real family that cares about people. And for the first time in years, every person at that table finally understood the difference.